Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Soul Land 2 episode number 122 based on novel. So let's start. The Tang sect wins. At this moment, in the individual elimination round, the Tang sect had 4 points, while their opponent only had 1. The Clear Jade sect only had 3 members left. Wang Donga, who was sitting next to Hua Yuhao, asked quietly, "Yuhao, shall we give them a chance for the group round?" Hua Yuhao looked her in the eye, smiled, and said, "Of course we have to give them a chance. If not, how will their team captain be satisfied?" Wang Donga understood what he meant as she replied, "I understand." Hua Yuhao smiled and squeezed her hand. The others of Shrek 7 Monsters smiled slightly. Only Nana didn't know. What does she mean by "I understand"? Jiang Nannan whispered in a low voice next to her, "Clear all obstacles for the glory of Shrek." Now Nana understood. Her heart was filled with a sense of profound respect. They wanted to clear all obstacles for the team from Shrek Academy. The Clear Jade sect was powerful enough to threaten Shrek Academy. They were trying to weaken it as much as possible. The Tang sect could choose to advance or retreat. They had many options to choose from. However, this was not the case for the Clear Jade sect. Their captain, who had been sitting firmly in her seat, suddenly stood up. She stared coldly at Xiao Xiao and then at the youth next to her. The youth stood up too. In a low voice, he conversed with the captain of the Clear Jade sect and then, he stood up and went on stage. Tang sect, Xiao Xiao. Clear Jade sect, Xue Bing. Let the round begin. With the unbreakable Doluor's announcement, the youth from the Clear Jade sect known as Xue Bing shot forward like an arrow. At the same time, 2 yellow, 3 purple, and 1 black soul ring rose around his body. Soul Emperor. Was he actually a 6-ringed Soul Emperor? When they noticed their opponent's Soul Emperor level cultivation, some in the Tang sect frowned. If Xue Bing was a Soul Emperor, and if their captain was a Soul Emperor, this meant that their team had 2 Soul Emperors. In the last tournament, other than Shrek Academy and the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy, there was no other team with this combination. They had never expected to meet such a team in the pre-trials of the tournament. This meant that while the Clear Jade sect was not as powerful as the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy, they were not too far off. Xiao Xiao looked at her 6-ringed opponent, but remained fearless. She maintained her previous tempo as she approached him. As Xue Bing rushed toward her, an emerald green light started to shine from metallic green rings on his body. In total, there were 6 metal rings. These 6 metal rings gave off a warm light. As the distance between Xue Bing and Xiao Xiao closed, his body started to undergo a sudden change. Layers of green scales started to appear from underneath his skin. When he first released his martial soul, he was able to use his soul power to suppress the change in it, so it only revealed itself now. Not only that, but his also body started to elongate, and as his body arched in midair, it extended by more than 10 meters. The 6 soul rings that surrounded his bucket-thick python-like body started to spin too. His first and third soul rings started to shine. His body surged forward as he came smashing down onto Xiao Xiao. What kind of martial soul is this? Xiao Xiao looked stunned. This was evidently not a typical martial soul, and her opponent was not yet a soul sage. Naturally, he would not be able to reveal his martial soul true body. However, in his current shape, was this not like a martial soul true body? How could this be possible? While she was shocked, Xiao Xiao's movements did not slow. She retreated quickly, and her 3 lives soul crush cauldron appeared. It suddenly enlarged as it came crashing down from the sky. Xue Bing had no intention of dodging it. Instead, he used his huge python-like body and clashed head-on with the 3 lives soul crush cauldron. What happened next shocked Xiao Xiao greatly. After her immense cauldron smashed into Xue Bing, it was actually sent flying away. Xue Bing's body continued to descend onto Xiao Xiao. He opened his mouth to reveal rows of fangs as he tried to swallow her whole. That's right, this is the power of a martial soul true body. As she came from Shrek Academy, Xiao Xiao's knowledge was wide. From the force of the crash just now, she was able to ascertain her suspicions. If it were not a martial soul true body, how could he knock her 3 lives soul crush cauldron so far away? Could her opponent be a 7-ringed soul sage instead of a soul emperor? How could this be possible? A 20-year-old 7-ringed soul sage. In the entire history of the Doluor continent, this had never happened before. While Xiao Xiao was shocked, her body did not freeze. The 3 lives soul crush cauldron, which had disappeared after it was sent flying away, reappeared next to her. Xiao Xiao's gaze turned serious, and she stretched her hands apart. Instantly, the 3 lives soul crush cauldron split into 3. She was protected in the center by the 3 copies of the cauldron. At the same time, her 4th soul ring started to shine. Each of the 3 cauldrons started to shine with an intense black light. 3 rays of black light shot into the sky. They met in midair, and then crashed down onto the body of the huge python. Seal. Xiao Xiao made an odd gesture with her hands. Her body started to float upward from the center of the 3 cauldrons, and shine with dazzling runes. Her 1000-year 4th soul skill gave off an unparalleled aura of power. The body of the huge python that descended from the sky was too enormous, so there was no way of dodging it. The moment the green light from its body touched the 3 lives soul crush cauldron's black light, it disappeared. Following that, an odd scene appeared. Xuebing's huge body started to shrink quickly as it fell from the sky. The 3 cauldrons started to move away from each other as they formed the shape of an equilateral triangle. Xiao Xiao stood near one of the cauldrons. Her hands made an odd heart-like shape. When Xuebing's body landed, it was only a third of its previous size. It was still in the shape of a huge snake, but it seemed it had been bound the blacklight, and was twisting about intensely. Cauldron's Seal. This was Xiao Xiao's 4th soul skill, a very powerful control-type soul skill. Xiao Xiao's 3 lives soul crush cauldron was an ancient martial soul that had been passed down for many generations. In the past, a cauldron was an important symbol of the state. This skill was akin to Cauldron Quake, which Xiao Xiao could activate by combining her 1st and 2nd soul skills. Xiao Xiao's 4th soul skill came from a mystical soul beast. When the soul ring of this soul beast fused with her, an anomaly occurred. This soul beast was an oddity from the past, known as the Xieji. It was a powerful soul beast that brimmed with a severe aura that could suppress evil. However, as pure Xijis had long been extinct, this soul beast only had some Xieji blood in it. The 1000-year soul beast Xiao Xiao had killed had looked more like a goat. However, the Xieji blood in this goat-like soul beast was fully brought out in its fusion with the 3 lives soul crush cauldron, and an anomaly happened. This 1000-year soul skill now had an extremely powerful sealing ability, able to suppress auras and seal all beings. Once a being was sealed, 2 outcomes would arise. First, it would be sealed for 3 seconds. During this time, Xiao Xiao could not attack it, as she had to control the soul skill. However, in those 3 seconds, the opponent's soul power would be suppressed by the 3 lives soul crush cauldron, and at least 30% of it would be eroded away. No matter how much more powerful the opponent was, as long as it was not 2 levels more powerful than Xiao Xiao, her cauldron's seal would work. The other situation arose when the opponent was unable to break free from cauldron's seal. The result then would be even more terrifying. After it had been suppressed by cauldron's seal, it would be sealed within the 3 lives soul crush cauldron, and only released upon Xiao Xiao's command. Of course, the cauldron could only imprison one being at a time. If it wanted to imprison another, it had to release the first one. In other words, this 4th soul skill was Xiao Xiao's killer move. As she faced off against a more powerful opponent, she finally decided to use it. Xuebing's martial soul was not a huge python, but instead another primordial lord of the jungle, an anaconda. Anacondas normally lived in the depths of jungles and swamps. As it was naturally powerful and could devour even lions and tigers, anyone that got trapped by one would be doomed. Xuebing was indeed a 6-ringed soul emperor. The reason why he could reveal his martial soul true body was because of the 6 metal rings that had appeared on his body. They were 6 class 5 soul tools, but they belonged to a set. Together, they were powerful enough to activate the hidden strength of a soul master's martial soul and give rise to an increase in soul power. Xuebing, who was originally a soul emperor, could use the metallic rings to activate his martial soul true body. How could he not delight in it? He had immediately abandoned his original close combat soul tool and decided to cultivate this set of metallic rings wholeheartedly. By using it in this tournament, he hoped to achieve an earth-shattering success. Who knew that he would have the foul luck of meeting Xiao Xiao's cauldron's seal? Xiao Xiao's cultivation could not compare to Xuebing's, and hence, he was only trapped by cauldron's seal for 3 seconds. However, in these 3 seconds, one could clearly see that the power of the anaconda had been severely weakened. This was the 3 lives soul crush cauldron's trademark ability to weaken its target's soul power. With much difficulty, Xuebing was able to escape from cauldron's seal. However, as he struggled, he felt a sense of disorientation. This was an inherent result of the suppressive power of the 3 lives soul crush cauldron. Xiao Xiao knew that her cultivation was not as good as her opponent's. At this moment, there was no use holding back. The 3rd, 2nd, and 1st soul rings on her body all started to shine. The first to activate was the 3rd soul ring. The split 3 lives soul crush cauldrons suddenly grew massively, to the point where their diameters exceeded 3 meters. Following that, the 1st soul ring kicked into effect. The 3 cauldrons were simultaneously lifted 30 centimeters off the ground, and then, they came crashing down simultaneously. As a huge tolling sound rang out, 3 black halos of light started to spread, fusing at the center of the 3 cauldrons, right where Xuebing, in the shape of an anaconda, was located. Xuebing, who had just regained control of his body, froze as the intense tremor hit him. Following that, he saw 3 cauldrons, almost as big as 3 small mountains, coming straight toward him from 3 different directions. The first soul skill of the 3 lives soul crush cauldron was Cauldron Quake, the second one was Cauldron Sweep, and the third one was Cauldron's Might. After the 4th soul skill, Cauldron Seal, was activated, These 3 soul skills were used almost back-to-back by Xiao Xiao. Her control of her soul skills was godly. With Cauldron's might, the 3 lives Soul Crush Cauldrons attacked. Even as a Soul Emperor, Xuebing spat out a mouthful of blood after he was hit by the 3 cauldrons. Evidently, he was rather severely injured. At this moment, he saw Xiao Xiao make a face at him as she said, "I admit defeat." With that, she turned and ran off. "I won." Even if it was a victory, he felt a profound sense of injustice. When Xuebing returned to his human form, his face was so dark that it was no different than if he had lost. However, the unbreakable Doluor was already in front of him, and he couldn't do anything even if he wanted to. He remembered the example of his teammate earlier on. Xiao Xiao jumped down from the arena and said, "Yu Hao, I didn't finish my task." Hua Yu Hao chuckled and said, "No, you have done it very well." As he said that, he looked at the arena once more, and then said in a loud, clear voice, "Referee, we decide to forego the individual elimination round and hope we can progress straight into the group round. Could you kindly allow it?" Forego the individual round? This is the perfect chance to score points. Are they afraid of Xuebing, who can use his martial soul true body? Many observers thought this way too, as they would never have imagined that they would be able to witness such power in a group of soul masters and soul engineers below the age of 20. This was unbelievable. Zheng Zhon nodded and said, "The Tang sect forgoes the individual round. In the individual elimination round, the Tang sect earns 4 points while the Clearjade sect earns 7 points. Both sides are permitted 1 minute of rest to prepare for the group round." Those in the crowd who did not understand thought that the Tang sect feared their opponent's martial soul true body. However, those who were more discerning realized that Hua Yu Hao had made an excellent decision. With Xuebing's power, he could possibly win 1 or 2 rounds, but was the Tang sect weaker than the Clearjade sect? Shu Sanxia had yet to fight, and he had also demonstrated the cultivation of a 6-ringed Soul Emperor. Despite Xiao Xiao conceding defeat in the previous round, was it really defeat? She managed to massively drain Xuebing's power, and if they moved straight into the group round like this, it would be impossible for Xuebing to recover all his power. Furthermore, only 6 members of the Clearjade sect could participate. Among them, Yu Chen and Qin Ye had lost, and they were both drained. Under these circumstances, the Tang sect would have a comparative advantage in the group round. 5 of their team members had yet to take part, and were all fresh. Points-wise, it was only a consolation for the weaker team. For a team that could dominate completely in this competition, it was nothing. When Hua Yu Hao said that he wanted to abandon the individual round and move straight into the group round, it was clear that he no longer cared about these points. Coupled with the fact that they had already beaten the team from the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy, they would be able to enter the top 8 as long as they could beat the Clearjade sect. When Qing Qing raised her hands, something weird happened. There was a ring on every finger of her hands. All 10 rings lit up with a bright glow, making her look like a member of the Nouveau Riche. Following that, a scepter appeared in her hand, 2 yellow, 2 purple, and 1 black soul ring surfacing from it. The first, second, and third soul rings lit up simultaneously. Although her control of her soul skills wasn't as immaculate as Xiao Xiao's, she could still be considered quite adept. 3 connected streaks of lights landed on Qin Ye. Her entire body started to shine with green light, and her entire aura immediately changed. On the other side of Qin Ye, Chen Jun materialized a heavy shield in his hand. The top of the shield was rectangular, while the bottom was a triangular wedge. It reached almost 2 meters in height, a classic tower shield. He looked fearsome as he hoisted his shield. Chen Ju's martial soul was unknown, but it seemed to enhance his strength and soul power. His shield was embedded with 4 huge gems, which soul engineers could tell formed the formation arrays of his shield. Attack, defense, and enhancement. The combination of these 3 from the Clearjade sect was rather strong. Furthermore, they defended the rest of their teammates as they appeared. The Tang sect was advancing less quickly. No one had unleashed any strong abilities. Shu Sanxia walked in front with the shield of the Xuanwu turtle before him. As he looked at Chen Jun's shield, he even said, "Ayo, I've finally met someone similar." Both parties were less than 30 meters apart now. On the Clearjade sect side, Qin Ye lifted her blade up high. However, the Tang sect's formation broke apart just before she managed to slash her blade down. 3 went to the left, while 4 moved to the right, creating a gap in their formation. Qin Ye stopped her blade suddenly and spat out blood in extreme discomfort. The gap her opponents had created was supposed to be where her blade landed. Just as she stopped, Wang Donga used Hua Yu Hao's wheelchair to propel herself into the air. In midair, the Goddess of Light's pair of butterfly wings opened up, and the light of the butterfly goddess shot straight towards the Clearjade sect like a glowing meteor shower. Not only that, but a series of whizzing sounds also resonated out. Streaks and streaks of white light flew into the air under the cover of the light of the butterfly goddess, and engulfed their opponents. The origin of destruction, He Kai Tu, finally attacked. Apart from He Kai Tu, The rest of Shrek's 7 monsters were most adept in mid or close combat battle. Even Hua Yuhao wasn't an exception. Although he was also a soul engineer, he didn't specialize in long-range attacks. He Kaitu had always been researching stationary soul tools, and he had learned how to accurately attack his targets from a distance. Although he couldn't use stationary soul tools in this tournament, he was still very good in terms of long-range and wide-area type attacks. While Tang Sek's movements to their left and right appeared very sudden, it was precisely these movements that immediately messed up the Clearjade sect's rhythm. When He Kaitu's wide-area attack landed, Qin Yeye still hadn't slashed out with her blade yet. Furthermore, He Kaitu's soul tools and Wang Dong's light of the butterfly goddess were guided by Hua Yuhao's spiritual detection. The level of precision was down to the millimeter. Hua Yuhao was even monitoring the formation of their opponent. He Kaitu wasn't using a strong soul tool, only a class 4 stinger cannon. Such soul cannons weren't able to create explosions that covered huge areas, but the penetrative power of the attacks from such soul cannons were very high. They could potentially even punch all the way through someone and hit the person behind them. The best way to deal with such soul cannons was to avoid them. As long as they were avoided, they were unlikely to cause much damage. He Kaitu fired 16 of these cannons. At least one of them was targeted at every Clearjade sect disciple, and was even aimed at their heads. Their points of contact were precisely calculated using Hua Yuhao's spiritual detection, and no mistakes would be made. The remaining 10 cannons were aimed at one person, which wasn't the team leader or Xue Bing. They were aimed at the weakest, but fastest, Yu Chen. Wang Dong's light of the butterfly goddess seemed to engulf a huge area, but it only had 2 main targets, Xue Bing and Kane. The light of the butterfly goddess surrounded both of them for only one reason, to affect them so that they couldn't help Yu Chen. As for the 3 in front, they couldn't pose any threat to the Tang sect, even though they were a good combination. Everything sounded like it took a long time to complete, but in fact, this was all done very quickly. A tremendous boom shook the arena. Wang Dong's light of the butterfly goddess was decently strong. She was a soul emperor, but her attack wasn't considered extremely strong because she unleashed it over too large of an area. However, they still had to block her attack even if it wasn't at its best. In contrast, the penetrative abilities of stinger cannons were much stronger. Out of the 6 Clearjade sect disciples, Chen Jun, the one with the shield, was the first to make a move. He raised his shield into the air and covered himself, Qin Yeye, and Qing Qing. Hua Yuhao poked fun at Wang Dong next to him and said, "It appears that your charisma doesn't always work for you. Look, this female captain doesn't seem to like you that much." Wang Dong snorted and said, "That is because I have yet to use the 36 tricks I have up my sleeves. If not, who knows what may happen? After all, I didn't kill her brother. He drank my blood to replenish himself and then blew up." Hua Yuhao chuckled. He too was curious. Why does Wang Dong's blood have such power? In other words, if Adler dared to drink her blood, he should be able to break it down, so why did he die from it? The unbreakable Doluor stood at the center and beckoned both teams forward. As they approached each other, the Tang sect could clearly sense the chilling aura of the captain of the Clearjade sect. Zhang Zhon said in a heavy tone, "The competition is about to start. Both of you have many people on your teams and hence, I can't afford to look after every single one of you. Once again, let me remind you that this is only a competition. You only live once, so please cherish your own lives, as well as the lives of your opponents." As he said that, he turned to look at the captain of the Clearjade sect and said, "It's regretful that your brother died. At the same time, I wish to apologize to you for failing to protect him. However, he was not killed by Wang Dong. I think you know better than me why he exploded." The captain of the Clearjade sect did not respond. She continued to give Wang Dong her death stare. "Can the participants from both sides please state your names, starting from the Clearjade sect?" Clearjade sect, Qin Yeye. Clearjade sect, Yu Chen. Clearjade sect, Chen Jun. Clearjade sect, Qing Qing. Vice captain of the Clearjade sect, Xue Bing. Xue Bing's face was pale as he stared at Xiao Xiao. He knew the taste of being hit consecutively by 4 of Xiao Xiao's soul skills. The Clearjade sect captain was the last to open her mouth. In her raspy, icy-cold and feminine voice, she said, "Clearjade sect, Kane." Kane? What an odd name. Among the 2 other members of the Clearjade sect who had yet to take part, Chen Jun was a tall youth and Qing Qing was a plain-looking girl with a nice body. Tang sect, Hua Yuhao. Tang sect, Wang Dong. Tang sect, Shu Sanxia. Tang sect, He Kaitu. Tang sect, Jiang Nannan. Tang sect, Xiao Xiao. Tang sect, Nana. The 7 members of the Tang sect reported their names. Before the match even began, the tension between the 2 sides appeared capable of igniting the very air. For the Tang sect, this was one of the strongest teams they had met since they took part in this Continental Elite Youth Soul Master Tournament. To them, this was a test, especially for Hua Yuhao as their captain. Both teams stepped back. The 2 teams slowly moved back. Wang Donga continued pushing Hua Yuhao's wheelchair, and hence spoke to no one as she walked slowly away. They could clearly sense that Hua Yuhao's spiritual detection was joining all of them into a singular entity, like a huge net that enveloped the entire arena. In the mind of every member of the Tang sect, they all had a bird's-eye view of the entire arena. When they approached their respective corners of the arena, the two sides started to line up. On the Clearjade sect side, Qin Yeye, who had battled against Xiao Xiao, stood at the forefront. On Qin Yeye's left was Chen Jun, and on her right was Qing Qing. Behind her stood the powerful Xue Bing. Kane stepped behind Xue Bing, and Yu Chen stood behind Kane. Evidently, he was ready to attack with his astounding speed. On the Tang sect side, Shu Sanxia, who always played a defensive role, stood at the front. To his left stood Xiao Xiao, and to his right stood Jiang Nannan. Behind Shu Sanxia was He Kai Tu, and behind He Kai Tu was Wang Donga and Hua Yuhao. Nana stood all the way at the back. The two formations both sides took up were not conventional, but they were well coordinated. Zheng Zhon, the unbreakable Doluo, looked at both sides. Even with his cultivation, he felt a sense of pressure in his heart. After all, no one knew what the result of this competition would be. These youngsters were not only exceptionally strong, but devious as well. He could not manage the entire arena by himself. After all, 5-ringed and 6-ringed Soul Masters were already considered the creme de la creme. He forced these thoughts out of his mind and looked at both teams. He raised his left hand and cried out, "Begin," as he chopped down. With this, both teams started to move immediately. While the Clearjade sect only had 6 people, they were undoubtedly going on the offensive. Qin Yeye, who stood at the front, was now supported by her teammates. Her entire body brimmed with strength as she unleashed her broadsword martial soul. She advanced rapidly, and almost instantly her entire body was covered with a thick layer of armor. As the tremendous booms sounded out, the 3 of them stopped in their tracks, but weren't hurt by the light of the butterfly goddess or the stinger cannons. The intense lights released by his shield blocked all the attacks. Xue Bing continued to demonstrate his strong side. As he moved, a dominating aura was released from his body. A strong gust of gas rose into the air and destroyed the stinger cannon shell flying towards him. After that, he also helped Kane block the light of the butterfly goddess. He also quickly revealed his martial soul, as he leapt up and jumped over the 3 in front of him, bursting straight towards the Tang sect team. Kane raised her right hand gently, and 5 long, dark golden nails extended out. She used her nails to scratch the stinger shell, which seemed to be drained as it contacted her nails, and failed to explode, instantly turning into a piece of scrap metal. As for the light of the butterfly goddess, Kane used her nails to destroy it, too. However, Yu Chen wasn't so lucky. As an agility-type soul master, his role was to stay at the sides and lay an ambush for his opponents when the opportunity arose. It was the best way he could unleash his greatest fighting strength. As a result, he was stuck behind as his teammates burst forward. He wanted to take a side route and secretly attack one of Tang sect's members. He had no fixed target, but instead was ready to attack whoever was most exposed. However, 11 stinger shells were crashing straight towards him under the cover of the light of the butterfly goddess before he even had a chance to move. These cannons accurately took into account his trajectory, as well as how he circulated his soul power. He felt as if he were running straight into them. He wasn't as powerful as Kane, and was even defeated by Wang Donga badly in the first round. After some rest, he had restored around 50 to 60% of his power. However, he was taken aback by these 11 cannon shells. Out of pure reflex, he used a few soul skills and managed to deal with them. However, a terrifying feeling caused his entire body to shudder. As he lifted his head to look into the sky, Yu Chen was horrified to see a metal ball with a diameter of around half a meter in the air. This metal ball was facing him like a huge eye, an intense red glow undulating on its surface. As he lifted his head, a streak of red light had already shot straight down towards him. At the same time, 4 familiar golden rings appeared around him. The 4 beams of golden light also rose and instantly locked him in place. There was no chance of escape. A huge figure appeared in midair. A white barrier blocked Yu Chen's head, and a loud boom rang out a few times before it stopped. Yu Chen was very pale as he stood very still. Clearjade sect, Yu Chen, eliminated. The huge figure was undoubtedly Zheng Zhon. When the streak of red light crashed down, he already knew that Yu Chen was helpless. In addition, Yu Chen had already used his invincible barrier. Even if he hadn't used it yet, he might not even be able to block this attack even if he tried to use it. He was facing a strong Class 7 soul tool called the Eye of Fear. The Eye of Fear was a strange long-distance control-type soul tool. It could only take effect after being fired into the air. How high the Eye of Fear was fired was dependent on the level of the Eye of Fear. Such a soul tool could either be Class 7, 8, or 9. However, the difference in strength between each class was quite large. A Class 7 Eye of Fear could be fired up to a height of 100 meters. From there, it could attack up to a distance of 300 meters. Every 10 seconds, it was able to fire a terror ray. A terror ray could dissect, blast, penetrate, dispel, scorch, and corrode, among other effects. How long it could last depended on the charging capabilities of its energy-gathering formation. A Class 8 Eye of Fear could be fired up to 300 meters up and remain in the air. It could attack at a distance of up to 1,000 meters and could be fired every 15 to 20 seconds. It was 3 times stronger than a Class 7 Eye of Fear. Additionally, it could explode. When it exploded, everything within a 250-meter radius of it would die. As for a Class 9 Eye of Fear, one was rumored to exist only in the Sun Moon Empire's secret weapons vault. No one knew how strong it was, as it had never been used in battle. Creating a Class 7 Eye of Fear was already very complicated, as difficult as creating 3 ordinary Class 7 soul tools. While the offensive abilities of an Eye of Fear were quite strong, it had a great flaw in that it couldn't lock onto its target. It was dependent on the aiming of the person who used it. If its target moved, it would be useless. It was very important to predict the movement of one's opponent in order to use this soul tool well. Conversely, it wasn't easy to predict the movement of an opponent who had to be dealt with using an Eye of Fear. Along with the fact that it was very expensive and complicated to create an Eye of Fear, most Class 7 soul engineers were unwilling to make one. Another major flaw of the Eye of Fear was that it was easily broken. It would break as long as it was accurately hit even once, and the strength required wasn't high. Furthermore, an Eye of Fear couldn't move once it rose into the air. It had gained a nickname after it was created. It was called the Terrifying Chicken Ribs. However, this Terrifying Chicken Ribs managed to kick Yu Chen out of the team round. Otherwise, he would have been blown apart by its terror ray. This attack along, with Wang Dong's 4 hexagram arrays, was enough to defeat Yu Chen. This was the teamwork of the Tang sect team. After firing his Eye of Fear into the air, He Kai-Tu revealed a grin. It was like it had nothing to do with him. He had a second, outer helmet on for the moment, and a control button in his hands. The button enabled him to position the Eye of Fear. As for aiming at Yu Chen, it was something that he didn't need to worry about. With Hua Yuhao's spiritual detection helping him, the powers of the Origin of Destruction were bound to be enhanced to the limit by the eyes of the Azura. Boom! The huge anaconda fell from the air and knocked into one side of the wall. Shu Sanxia lunged forward to block before sliding his body back by a meter. He managed to deflect Xuebing away in that moment, and prevented him from disrupting their formation. Xiao Xiao also acted at this point. Her black 3-lives Soul Crush cauldron instantly grew in size until it reached 3 meters in diameter. It fell from the sky and crashed down onto the head of the anaconda true body. Wang Dong'er had just completed her 4 hexagram arrays and returned to Hua Yuhao's side. Jiang Nannan didn't move, and remained at Shu Sanxi's side. Nana shifted, moving behind Shu Sanxia. The front 3 of the Clearjade sect also adjusted their positions. Qin Yeye raised her blade up high under Qing Qing's enhancement, and an intense blade light shot out, more than 30 feet in length. The armor on her body was also like a burning green sun. Her aura was soaring at an alarming speed. Accumulation. She chose to accumulate her power now. While she only had 5 rings, the might of her attack would be extremely terrifying afterwards if given time to power it up. But the Tang sect seemed to be unbothered by this. A streak of deep blue sword light appeared like a bolt of lightning and struck the anaconda true body. The anaconda let out a pathetic scream, and a deep wound surfaced on it. Light shot out in all directions because of this. As Xuebing activated his martial soul true body, it naturally didn't possess any blood. However, it was surging with soul power undulations. The sword light that struck it carried the strength of ultimate ice. Xuebing was being suppressed. The cute snow lady drifted up into the air. As she saw the anaconda true body, she seemed very scornful. The Snow Empress 3 ultimate techniques, unparalleled chill, Empress sword. The Tang sect was undoubtedly even more terrifying when they fought as a team. With Hua Yuhao's spiritual detection, they easily suppressed their opponents. Zheng Zhon sighed as he watched everything. The Tang sect is too strong. It seems like the Sun Moon team was right to give up in the team round. 5 against 7. They wouldn't have been able to beat the Tang sect, considering how strong and coordinated they are. At this point, the Clearjade sect was at a complete disadvantage. They hadn't given their all yet, but they were already down 1 member. The rest of them were also being suppressed. Their earlier formation, which was quite strong, was of little value at this point. This left them like headless chickens. Kane finally acted. When her team members were all in disastrous situations, she burst out like a shadow. She was extremely quick, far quicker than Yu Chen. As they saw her figure flash, she was already in the air above the Tang sect team. As she lifted her hands, 10 streaks of dark golden light shot towards the Snow Lady. Not only that, but she also let out a high-pitched shriek. Everyone in the Tang sect jerked as one, and were slightly delayed as they tried to unleash their abilities. Quick! Even Hua Yuhao hadn't expected Kane to be so ferocious. However, the Snow Lady wasn't afraid. She wasn't under Hua Yuhao's control. She possessed her own intelligence and the fighting capabilities of the Snow Empress. Against the dark golden rays, her body swayed a little, and she flitted aside like a streak of deep blue light before brushing past them. At the same time, she moved to place her small palm on Kane's chest. The Snow Empress' 3 ultimate techniques, Empress Palm, Snowless Glacier. She immediately used her killer move. The roar might have been effective on the Tang sect members. However, how could it have any effect on the Snow Lady? Kane didn't continue fighting the Snow Lady. As her attack had no effect, she quickly shifted positions, too fast to be caught. This time, she appeared above Hua Yuhao and Wang Donga. She clawed down at their heads. As the team leader of the Clearjade sect, Kane knew that Hua Yuhao was the one commanding the entire team, even though he seemed like he was the weak link by being in a wheelchair. If he was removed, the Tang sect's coordination would be messed up. Whatever crisis Zheng Zhon could see, Kane could also see. To win this team round, she had to get rid of the brains behind the Tang sect. 2 crisp sounds echoed out. Kane was stunned. Neither Hua Yuhao nor Wang Donga had blocked her attack. It was a big shield instead. Kane's fighting style was to immediately shift her position after she attacked. Otherwise, she would be in trouble once she was cornered by the Tang sect. She didn't hesitate at all, her figure flashing away as she returned to the air. This time, she opened up a pair of dark golden wings behind her back, driving herself up towards the Eye of Fear above her. At this point, the Eye of Fear had only charged for 3 seconds. She had chosen the perfect time. If she didn't destroy it immediately, it could pose a threat to her entire team. None of them knew who its next target would be. However, the weird thing was that no one from the Tang sect stopped her. No one even tried. After Shu Sanxia blocked Kane's attack, he moved back in front of the entire team again. His shield was still in front of him, and he watched Qin Yeye, who was almost done with her power accumulation. At this point, she was already targeting him. Shu Sanxia had to be overcome first, no matter whether it was because he was a 6-ringed Soul Emperor or because he was a defense-type Soul Master. In their previous clashes, neither Xuebing nor Kane managed to make any headway because of him. A weird smile appeared on Shu Sanxi's face. Jiang Nannan shook her head gently when she saw that smile, and also started to act. She moved with a flash, and leapt forward diagonally. Her target was the anaconda true body of Xuebing. Hua Yuhao's eyes shone with divine light. The Snow Lady returned to his side again, but she stopped behind Shu Sanxi's back. She raised her small and delicate hands. Wang Donga could tell that rings and rings of icy blue light were forming in the center of the Snow Lady's right hand at a rapid rate. Was she accumulating the power of her Snowless Glacier? What was she doing? The Snowless Glacier would only have sufficient effect if it struck the opponent directly. However, Wang Donga was only a little doubtful. She was also drifting in the air under the guidance of Hua Yuhao's spiritual detection. Streaks and streaks of hexagram arrays rose into the air as both parties fought each other. Their target was the anaconda true body. Xuebing was unfortunate. He had already been struck once by the unparalleled chill as he was careless. Right now, he could only try to maintain his anaconda true body. The intense pain and the ultimate ice were greatly diminishing his fighting strength. While a martial soul true body was strong, his was not a true martial soul true body. As his abilities were diminishing, he also didn't dare to face Wang Donga's hexagram arrays directly. He was also afraid to rush forward. Xiao Xiao's 3 lives Soul Crush Cauldron coordinated with Wang Donga's hexagram arrays to suppress him, preventing him from advancing any further. At this point, Kane was already in front of the Eye of Fear. She reached out with her claws, about to destroy it. However, a weird feeling engulfed her body suddenly. Kane only felt the space surrounding her distorting furiously. Her claws found nothing. Following that, she realized a familiar yet frightening streak of green light was crashing down from the sky. Her head was its target. This video will end here. Thank you for watching.